So with that, I will leave you with Maya and her presentation using Moho to animate characters in motion graphic projects. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, welcome in this Moho webinar. I'm so glad that you could come and listen to our little presentation. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Maya. Yeah, I'm the animator and producer in Animut. Actually, during this presentation, I'm going to show you the work not only mine but also made by our awesome animators, by Paweł Granatowski, he's the co-owner of the studio, by Victoria Gnat and Karol Schulz. So yeah, we are a design studio, the animation studio, who really loves our job, as you can clearly see from the photo, and also we love each other. We are trying to create as much as fun projects as is only possible. Yes, and maybe you are a bit familiar with our work. We we are working for different brands and clients. Sometimes they're really small startups, and sometimes they're really big, like the biggest in the world, like Amazon or Apple. We like to focus on our characters because by showing human emotions in the animation, we can tell the story better, and make it just more engaging for the viewer. We are really huge fans of Moho. Actually, the software changed everything for us because yeah, sometimes when you're seeing what people are doing in a different softwares, we are just shocked that it's so easy in Moho. So we are trying to promote guys and from Moho to and just thank thank them for all the job that they've done, because then due to their work we can do such cool stuff, right? So thank you, Moho team. Yeah, the software is getting better and better with each update, and yeah, we spent some sleepless nights with the crashes, but right now it's much better. So that's why we have a ton of motivation to move our animations forward with the software. So yeah, please check it out. Yeah, so we are the studio. We started from creating GIFs, really short forms, around 6 seconds. So because our projects were really different on a different during the time, our projects were more and more complicated. First of all, we started, as I mentioned, from the GIFs. So it's around 6 or 10 seconds to create, like the length of the GIF is around this. So the rigs and our approach to the animation was extremely different than it's now, because to create a GIF we don't need to use any sophisticated rigs. It needs to be simple because a lot of things can be faked. Like we can just do it like on a timeline by changing points, and that's why the rigs doesn't need to be super complicated. After we got pretty good in GIFs, we started to get some jobs in explainer videos. The videos are around 2 or 3 minutes, so also not super long. Almost each time there's more than one character. So for example, in one explainer we have around, I don't know, 50 seconds of animation of the characters. In most of the cases we have one character which is the main. So normally we are doing one or two rigs which are a bit more complicated, and all the others are pretty easy because the characters are used only in the background. So that's why there's no point of making them super complicated because no one will notice. So yeah, we like to keep our work as simple as possible, to just to have more time to for the main characters. And right now we are in the moment, as a studio, that we are creating animated series. They are not for Netflix yet, but they have more episodes than two. It's around 20, for example. So it's much more work, and the episodes are around 5 minutes. So the animation and the rig needs to be a bit more complex, just to cover this amount of time, and to keep the viewer engaged in a story. Because if the action is that long, then you can see a lot of details. So that's why our attention to detail is much it's just bigger, because it's visible. So we need to try a bit harder. Yeah, so during this process of creating different forms of videos, we had to improve our workflow and our approach to animation. And that's why we found different solution on different problems, because yeah, each problem actually has a different solution. So yeah. And because of the topic of our webinar, first of all, I wanted to go with you through our workflow, how we are doing things, what is the process. Actually, here I would like to explain you how we are creating a video in different softwares, and how we are connecting it. So yeah, our process starts from of course, first of all, we have storyboard, illustration. That's from the production side point of view. But from the animation point of view, we are starting from animatic. We are doing in After Effects. Actually, our animatics, we are trying to keep them pretty simple, because I know that many animation studios are doing much more detailed ones. Our are looking a bit more like a just slideshow, I guess, because they're based on the storyboard. It's only about making it easy for animator to have everything placed in time. Sometimes we are doing a simple camera movement, but they're as simple as just zoom in, zoom out, swipe, slide left, right. So nothing fancy. It's just to have the reference for the animation, how the camera is going to move, and what's going to be visible in a different moments. Um, then we are moving to Moho, to character animation. We are starting from, of course, from the rig. Actually, before that, we are preparing illustrations for animation, and we have our special technique, mm, how to prepare them in Illustrator to later import them well to Moho. And also we are importing an animatic to Moho, just a short piece of it to have the reference, and we are animating it to this reference. And after it's done, we are creating other elements. In this example, we had to do something in Blender in 3D. Sometimes it's frame by frame technique, sometimes it's something else, but here we had to model and rig actually also a robot, and then animate it also as it was on the reference. And after we have both of those animations exported, the one from the Moho and one in Blender, we are moving to After Effects, and we are importing it then. And then we are checking if everything is correct, and if everything fits to one another. And we're adding all the other elements. Normally we have two teams. One team is, excuse me, doing um, all the animations in After Effects, and the second one is doing things in Moho, because each person has its own preferences. So that's why we're using their talent to on a special field. So that's why during the when the character animation is done, in the same time we are doing it in After Effects. Different people are doing that, and then the compositing artist is doing the compositing in After Effects. And let me quickly show you how does it work in Moho. So this is our rig, this is the girl. So let me show you the animation. Nothing fancy, she's just moving her fingers, because we know that over here we have a line. So this is the reference. So yeah, and it's as you can see, we have some dots over here. Later during the export, we are hiding them, because our illustrators are preparing them for us. So then we have the bone, and we know when the next bone should start, because this is the center of the circle. So yeah, we have the animation, then we are exporting it like here, export animation. Whoopsie, here is the window. Yeah, here we have image sequence, PNG, because we want to we don't need to have any background, so then it will be transparent. And also this one is pretty important, overwrite existing files, because then if you will find out in After Effects that something is not working, then you can just change it right here, and if you will click render, everything will be in the same place, and then you will not need to change that in After Effects. Everything will happen automatically. So it's super cool to have this one checked. And then choose folder. We are choosing the folder, as you probably know, and we're clicking render. So then we have the girl, and for in this example, actually the line is going to be between fingers. So what I would do, I would export the fingers on separate layers. So this finger separately and this one separately, because the line is going to be in between. So yeah, and in After Effects, it looks like this. So here you can import it. Just double click. Moho Gear. This is the one that I've done previously. Actually, it has still the dots, but you get the idea. And after here, you need to click PNG sequence, and then we are importing her. And it's super important to have, when you have here interpret footage, to have the same frame rate as it was in Moho, because then everything is going to look the same. So yeah, let me show you quickly how it's working. Here we have the robot. So that's that's the scene. This is the robot in 3D. This is the Moho. This is Moho, and the rest is After Effects. So yeah, that's the girl. And as you can see, the fingers are done separately, and the line is in between. We are not doing any motion capture here or anything else. We are just doing it in frame by frame, because this is like a couple of frames, so this is not a problem to animate it. And if we have something else what is going to be what is not working here, sometimes we are using masks in After Effects directly. For example, this robot is masked to be under the line, and the same you can do with PNG sequence from Moho. So sometimes it's much easier to do it in After Effects than in Moho, because then you have the preview for on everything else that needs to fit to the girl. Yeah, cool. So that's it about the scene. Let me go back to the presentation. Yeah, so that's our workflow. And as I mentioned, sometimes when we are doing rigs or explainers for the background characters, we are doing the quick rigs. So they are actually super basic. They're taking us around from 1 hour to 2. And we know that we need only few smart bones to create, for example, this guy. I guess that he's pretty bouncy, and it worked well for him to don't do anything complicated. So on smart bows, we need to have always up and down, left and right, squash and stretch, and it's for us it's super important to have a separate bones from squash and stretch of the head and squash and stretch of the body, because then we can bounce it out. We can um, have different timing on different bounces, so it makes the animation much more awesome. Yeah, and blink is also important, because then our character it's just easier on a timeline to do it on a smartphone than on the timeline. So like on the points in Moho. So let me show you the Moho file from it. Moho, here we go. Yeah, this is the guy. Actually, this is the whole scene. I can show it to you. We have the dog also on the girl and the background. Yeah, please ignore the teeth because it was on the mask, and in the preview mode the mask is not working. So the guy, I'll close them down. Yep, this is our guy. Yeah, so pretty easy movements. Squash and stretch of the body, the head, left and right. All the bones on the hair were done by using dynamic bones, the physics. Yeah, the eyes and up and down. So yeah, for us, it's enough to create this kind of animation. So everything what doesn't need, for example, to walk, it's much easier because we don't. There's no point of doing anything more complicated because anyway we're not going to use that. So, for example, here it's not working perfectly, but for us it was enough. So, yeah. So actually that's it. Yes. So these are the quick rigs, but also sometimes we need more complex rigs. And this is the guy is Think Up Man. It's a character created to sing along video. The video was around 3 or 4 minutes. It's about Christian values, for example, making babies. Yeah. Um, and this was the main character, which was in exactly every scene of this video. So for sure we had to create much more just much better rig to then make the animation easier for us. And this guy actually had a ton of different accessories and different hands, different faces. So that's why we had to rig all of it um, to make it look good. This kind of rig takes us around 2 to 3 days. We are trying to do everything on smartphones if it's possible. Also, we are rigging the expressions. We are using Vitruvian bones on the limbs, like in this case on the hands. And also we are doing correction bones to the rig to have everything on bones, to don't animate each point if it's not working. So yeah, and let me show you the file. This is our guy. Actually, here it has a cape. Actually, I'm in love with this cape because yeah, it's also rigged, and in my opinion, it looks almost like frame by frame. So the masks were used pretty smart in this case. That's why it's looking quite good. Yeah. So let me show you the. Give me a minute. Please give me a minute for a sip of water. Mm. Yeah. So in this rig, the thing that is really interesting is how the limbs were done, because here we can, as you can see, we don't have a normal skeleton. If I will click the parent, as you can see, this bone is parented to the shoulder, and the elbow is as well parented to the shoulder. So there's no order as normal, but it was working really cool in this animation because we could do something like this. Whoopsie, not this one. Like this. And we could along the arms, and we could make them much more flexible than it's normally done. So it was super useful to get this cartoonish vibe of the character. So yeah, let me go through those bones. We have left and right on the shoulders, and we are trying to during the left and right turns, we are doing everything on the bones. We are not changing the graphics like the positions. We are only changing the bones. This one is pretty easy, left, right. Also, the feet were done on just on smart bones. And yeah, here what's interesting, we are we were trying to do everything on smart bones to avoid doing any actions on points on the timeline, because then if we have different animations, it's much easier to copy and paste them, because everything is visible and on the same timeline. We don't need to look for some points about which we forgot. So yeah, the thing is with this rig that we actually also put some attention to rigging the face. So, for example, during the rigging of the eyebrows, the most important part was that the eyebrows, like each axis of animating the eyebrows, is done on a separate smart bone. So this one is only up down. This one is about the rotation, and this one is about angry and sad. So this one is on point. The first thing is that we can stay consistent with the expression. So the character has always the same sad face, the same smile face, and actually this is the same with mouth. We can rotate them, we can make them wider and not so wide, and we can add smile or it's sad. So so for us it was the best to have everything on Spardos, because then the animation has a specific character, and we can apply it on each scene without copying the keyframes on point. Yeah, this is the same thing when it comes to legs. And actually right here, sometimes it was quite hard to get the perfect shape. That's why we have the smart bone to control the sizes, and also the sleeve. Actually, here we can not see the sleeve, but it's somewhere here. Yeah, so that's the thing. So yes, actually we also created some Vitruvian bows for it. So for example, this hand can be on with different fingers, and sometimes also we use different amount of bones on the Vitruvian bone. So for example, here there's one bone which is parented to this one, and all the others are parented to this one. So that's why we are not seeing them all the time, only when this hand is visible. And what's more, it's yeah, we have also different rigs on mouth. Yeah, it's we can change them like here, for example, for this one. Let me show if it's working. Maybe yeah, okay. I messed something up before. I should do some other bone to I should change the position of other bone to see other or the mouth. But anyway, believe me, they are there. So cool. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. That's it about the Think Up Man. I hope that you like them, you like him, and yeah, and our second complex rig is multi-rig. So we are hoping that soon we'll have one rig to run them all because just recently, actually today in the morning, we found out a solution how to create one rig and which we can adjust to different characters, and it will allow us to copy and paste animations without any problem, even though the characters are quite different as here. So one guy is tall, the second is short, one is slim, and the second is fat. So here with those rigs, we are going to do also everything on bones, not everything on smart bones, but definitely on bones. Um, we can do it on different body types, and it will allow us to create a library of animations, because in this range of animations that we are doing, the animations are pretty repeatable, I can say, because we always need a walk cycle, or the character which is looking for something, or on something, the character which is talking, or just simply it is there and it needs to do something just to don't be boring. Um, and in this rig, actually, we also need a correction bones to change everything on a like to adjust the skeleton to the character. So let me show you the rig. Oh, where's my mouse? Okay, it's here. So yeah, here we have the characters, and as you can see, they are doing exactly the same, even though the animation was copied. And how does it work? So this is the guy. This is the character from the Bible, I guess. I'm not sure what's his name, but they say that he's a king. And yes, so the skeleton is one. Of course, if the clothing is going to change, we are also going to adjust the bones, but for sure, each character has two legs, two arms, like the human one for sure. Yes, and let me quickly show you the how does it work. So we have a guy, and he has we have a whoa, not this one. I'm on the frame 0 always. So the eyes can be closed. We can close one eye and then the other. As you can see here, we have the eyelids. That's why it's super easy to close the eye. We have some movement on the eyes. We have also the shiny eyes. If something is going to be super exciting, he's going to have shiny eyes. Yes, so here we are also we need to remember to have each movement of the eyes on separate axis as it was before. Yeah, so classic ones. And our point is that here we can adjust it. So if we are going to have a character with different space between the legs, we can adjust it. So yeah, so then it's much easier to make the animation move, to make the animation work after it's paced. Here we have also the height of the character. We can make them shorter and taller. Here is also the position. And here, about the face, we have several controllers only for mouth. So we can do this kind of action to make him speak, and also the same with the teeth. And yeah, so we are using different bone groups in the same skeleton to make everything more visible and easier to navigate. We are also rigging the brows, so we can adjust it as we want without animating the points. The same with the eye. I'm not sure why those controls are so big, but they are like this. And the same with the second one. And if I will click here, I have everything rigged. So the rotation of mouth, if it's closed, if it's wide. And the point is that if we're going to adjust all of those bones on a frame 0, and then we are going to copy the animation from the other file, everything is going to work, because only the program is going to understand how it was changed on the 0 and is going to translate it to the new animation, and it's just simply going to work. So it's really cool, because then if we'll create a huge library of animations, we're not going to do the same animations over and over again. We can just copy and paste it. So then we have more time for everything, which is much more complex. Yeah, so here we can close and open the mouth. Yeah, here's the line rig, so we can adjust it. And also, yeah, we can. This one I'm not sure why it's not working, but yeah, we have everything on bones, so it's much easier to do it. Yeah, and here we have some characters which are also going to correct the arms. Click here. So for example, if like here I have those animations, and if I want to change the position of arm, I can make the character, for example, here. If I will move the character, then this bone is not going to be um, so rotated. That's why it's super important to use those, because here actually it's working pretty well. But if you are going to have different character, maybe this arm can be like this, because then something else is going to be messed up. So that's why we can control the position and the rotation of hands. And actually it was done on all the bones. So, and if we'll define it on a first frame, then it's the whole animation is going to be adjusted to it. So it's really cool, because then we don't need to do it with each action. We're just doing it once at the beginning, and then it's done. And if you want to copy the animation, we need to select all the bones, click copy, and then paste relative. Actually, here I can do this, but if I were going to be on a different rig, it's also going to work. So paste relative, and then everything will be translated to the other rig, and it will work. So cool thing if you are animating at a series, because then you can apply the same style of animation to all the characters. So and then only adjust it to have more character to each action. But basically, we're hoping that it's going to improve our animations. Yeah, going back to the presentation. This is the multi-rig. And actually, I have one quick trick for you at the end. We're not animating only humans. Sometimes we are animating also animals. Sometimes they are animals, and sometimes just cartoonish characters. But it's super important, even though you have some crazy character, which is not an animal. It's just a creature created by a creative illustrator or by you. um, you should remember that for sure in a real life there's some creature which is really similar to yours. For example, it has also 4 legs or 5 or like any amount. So then during the rigging and animation, you can base on that. So for example, recently we had to animate a camel and a donkey. And actually, both of those animals are really similar to horse. They have 4 legs, and the way of building the skeleton for them is quite similar. So actually, we picked our animator, Victoria, who is really a huge fan of horses. So she's super familiar with the anatomy of the horse and his movements. So if she knows how to animate how the horse is moving, the animation of a camel and a donkey is going to be much easier for her because those animals are pretty similar to each other. So for me, it was groundbreaking to discover that camels and humans, well, they're quite similar. Of course, from the skeleton point of view. So if we have a thigh bone, um, this is the bone. This is the human bone, and this is a thigh of a camel. And if we have a knee, the camel knee is here, not here. Super important, because then the angle of rotation of the bone is going to be almost similar, um, it's going to be the same as we have. So then we have a shin bone, and this is the shin bone, the purple one, and this is human shin bone. So then we have the bone of a feet. Actually, this one is camel's feet. Of course, it's not, but from skeleton point of view. Um, this yellow bone is this bone of ours. And the red one is the same as the one that we are using for our toes. Of course, human has much more bones over here, but for the animation purpose, from animation point of view, this is the one, and this is the same. So if we will translate it into the human movements into the camel movements, we'll see that they are pretty similar. And for me, it was after I realized that it was much easier for me to animate the animals, because then I can just move my my leg and see how it does work. So yeah, let me show you the camel rig. The camel rig. Yeah. So yeah, here we have simple animation, and here is the camel which is running. And yeah, please use references of a run of camel, because it's much different in, like, it was different in my head and in the reality, because camels, for example, they almost don't move their head when they are running. So here you can check how the rig is working. So yeah. So it's fairly easy when you will understand how similar it is to the human being. So yeah. And as you can see here, for example, we didn't use any smart bones because the animation was not complex, so we didn't have to, and the camel was used only in the background, so any details wouldn't be visible anyway. Yeah. So going back to the presentation, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I hope that you that it was interesting for you. Maybe you have some questions, so please ask. I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. This has been such an insightful webinar, really full of content. Your presentation is amazing and everybody loved it. So we want to thank all the attendees today because there's people from Argentina like Jerry, there's people from Boston, USA like Josh, Lars from Germany, Jay from Scotland, Michael from Trinidad and Tobago. There's people from Egypt like Ragyay, Matt from
Oh, so the camel
Tennessee.
was for sure. He would be more familiar with camels than me.
Yes, yes. So yeah, everybody loved your presentation. There are tons of questions. So Andres says, great webinar. Congratulations for the presentation. There's people from Brazil. So thank you. And let's start with some basic questions. For example, Jerry asks, um, thank you so much for all this amazing information. I'd like to ask about the character design. How is the process to create so beautiful characters? Are they all created in Moho? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I can, yeah. So basically, when we are designing the characters, we first of all we are looking for some references from the it depends, of course, if it's a human being or something else. But with the humans, for sure, we are using a ton of references. First of all, we are starting from the sketches. The sketches are done in Procreate in most cases because it's much easier to have the tablet, for example, an iPad to create them. And then we are moving to Illustrator because our illustrators are much more familiar with the software. That's why because we have separate teams to to different parts of the project, the illustrators are more familiar with Illustrator. That's why they are using them, but they are using it. But we have some ways to export it pretty easily to Moho. So we are exporting it as SVG files. Like each layer is on is in different file, and the textures that we are doing, for example, the Photoshop ones, they are created as TIFFs and then as PNGs or JPEGs, and then they are imported um, to Moho, and then we are masking them just simply by hand in Moho. Yeah.
Awesome. Here's another question from Josh Fertig. Can you talk about your approach to character animation? Pose to pose, auto freeze. How did you address floaty links?
Well, so actually, I think that we are not following strictly by any rules. Maybe it sounds a bit rebellious, but yeah. So normally we are defining the main action. So I guess it's post to post, and then we're adding some frames in between. But with Moho is doing a ton of work for us actually. So actually, not each time it's necessary to do them, and then we are adjusting the timeline, like the pacing. So we are that's why our characters are so bouncy, because we're doing everything on like each bone is a bit which keyframe is a bit later on the timeline, so that's why we have such an effect. And then we are adding some bounces, some squash and stretches, and yeah, I guess that's it.
And there's one related question from Pedro Monteon. Do you use storyboards, sublime animations, animatic, rough animation?
Well, so our workflow is like this. So we are starting from the script, then the illustration team is doing the storyboards, just rough sketches, just to show like it can be even a stickmans actually, just to see how the story is shown by motion. And how the camera movements are also included in that. Uh, but the storyboard is pretty rough, and then we're creating the illustrations, uh, and then we're preparing illustrations to animation. It's super important to have this one ready, because then the animation team has much easier job if we can simply import everything on Moho to Moho, and we don't need to adjust everything. And we are preparing the characters to animation as well. So we are separating each part of character on different layers. So, for example, the hand has a separate forearm, fingers, and each part is separated, and the um, well, each part has a circle on the end, so it's easier to animate for us. And yeah, and then we are doing the animatic. But as I mentioned before, it's super simple. It's like a slideshow in PowerPoint. I think just um, we're using it to not to go back to storyboard each time. We're adding it to After Effects or Moho to have just a little picture in a corner to check how the voiceover is going, and for how long and what is the length of the animation, for example, the character animation, and in on which moment he needs to, I know, look at the right or do something. So yeah, everything needs to be perfect with the voiceover. Yeah, then we're animating the characters and After Effects stuff, and then we are composing everything, and then we render and enjoy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And here's another question. Josh missed the reason why the markers of the dots in the Moho scene. Is that for a reference for After Effects, or is for the review
Could
part?
you repeat, please, which uh,
The characters with the marker dots on the arm.
Uh, this, oh, you can see this one, right?
Yes. What was the
Okay,
reason that you were
so
using that?
yeah, so let me show you the file. Uh, each lamp has the circle here. So as I mentioned before, if you have the circle at the end of the part or of each part of the limb, then you place the bone from here to here, and without those points, then I'm not sure like where's the center because I can see it. And for illustrators, it's much easier just to uh, align it to the center. And then when I have those points and when I'm creating the bones, I'm clicking from here, here, and then from one point to another. And actually, after it's rigged, I can just hide them because there's no point of seeing them. Yeah, and as you can see here also. But it's needed only if you have the circles. Because, for example, here, if the hand doesn't have a circle because it's like it's one part, then there's like we don't need the point, because it doesn't matter if it's going to be a bit here or here. But with the circles, what is in the center, the movement, we don't need to correct anything. So as you can see, oh, here, the, we don't have such a big angle, but this one is almost perfect. It's not perfect, but it's much closer to perfect.
So
Yeah,
so basically, it's a way you guys found for referencing joints.
yeah, yes.
Perfect. So I'm gonna bind two questions, one from Abinwan and another one from Michael. Michael says, "Are Vitruvian bones an alternative to switch layer?" And Abinwan says, "The hands of the character with the cape is a switch layer or a Vitruvian bone."
Well,
So,
so it's a Vitruvian bone. And personally, for me, Vitruvian bones are a game changer because you don't need to look for the layer here. You can just simply click Alt Option D. Yeah, it's on Mac, I guess. I do it automatically. Yeah, Option D. Um, and then you don't need to just look for it. With the mouth, as I mentioned, we used the switch bones only because we are not super familiar with the with the Vitruvian bones yet, and the animator forgot about them. But later on, he
Mhm.
remembered, well, we have the Vitruvian bones, so let's do the hands on the Vitruvian bones. And yeah, they are perfect if, for example, here you have like 15 different poses. So if each time you would need to look for the for the layer, and then you need to remember what was the name of it and stuff, then it's taking any ages. And here you can just click and it's working. And also it's much easier on the timeline because it's just one keyframe. You don't have this like with the switch, there's like those 2 points of visible, invisible. Yeah, so it's easier.
Mhm. Here's a question from Silvek Palek. Hi, can you recommend any books about animations at any level of advancement?
Uh, well, the animate what's the okay the animation kit is the one.
Hmm.
I think it's the white one. It's like the classic one, I think. For me, it was the only one that I read, so actually I can recommend only this one. But I guess that this is like a bible for animators, so I can recommend this one. And just watch animations. I think that this is the best way to learn. And what I can recommend also, not only by books, you can just download so animation and watch each frame of it, like going really slowly, frame after frame, and then you will get how it's done and how many things um, you can skip because no one will notice. It was a perfect lesson for me to learn how I can fake some things, because actually animation is an art of faking, I think. So that's why it's super important to know when you can do some tricks to make the animation look cool and not to draw or animate exactly each frame. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Josh says yes, the Animator Survival Kit by Richard Williams.
Yeah,
And
yeah, this one.
that one, the Bible, as just mentioned. So here's another question. What has been your most preferred project, your favorite project that you have made so far, that you find that, okay, I really like how uh, the result, or how
Hmm.
complex it was and how we solved it?
Well, it's really hard to tell, I think, because we did like plenty of them, and also because we are such a big team. Um, as you can see here, there's like a ton of people who is doing that. So that's why many projects on which I'm working, I'm not the only author. So actually, I can like one character or another. Actually, right now I'm mostly focused on compositing, because when I produce, it's easier to be a compositing artist because I can have an impact on the overall effect of the video. Uh, I really like. Actually, this was one from our first project. This one is actually not by done by me. It's by Pavel. But we have this extremely cool project which contains a series of GIFs. It was like we did 20 each month, so it was a ton. Not each one was on a perfect level because we didn't have so much time, but the this is actually one of my first projects, and I loved it because I learned everything on it. Because each action was pretty different. I had the freedom to pay attention to each animation because it was only like few seconds, so I didn't had to animate the character for, I don't know, 30 seconds, because then it's a ton of work, and you can, if you have a tight deadline, you can't focus so much on doing it perfect once. So yeah, the Krello one, you can actually check it on our Behance. We have a few posts about it. It's really cool one. And this is the one, it's called Primer, and the file that I showed you with the girl with robot, uh, this is the one on which we used a ton of gradients, and the character animation was killer, done by an also artist. So I was glad that I could I could have an impact on this video, because it was like so fun to do and watch later, after waiting like 5 hours for render, because the gradients. Yeah, I love the gradients and hate it in the same time. So
Could be a headache or a blessing, depending on
yeah,
how you use it.
exactly.
So, Maya, I think we are almost on time for finishing this webinar, but there's one last question. What would you
Sure.
say to anyone who's in the motion graphic business, who hasn't used Moho for their character animation? Do you have any advice?
Well, I think just animate more and more, because if you're a freelancer and if you're looking for a job, then if you animate more and post your work, then everyone is going to find you. That's easy, and this is the perfect way to find clients. And if you are in the animation industry already, uh, just watch what others are doing and try to be always creative, and look for inspiration, because it's super easy to start to treat animations as a normal job, but it's not a normal job. It's the In my opinion, it's the coolest job ever. So um, you just need to appreciate that, and the limits are like there's no limits in animation, so you can do honestly whatever you want. And yeah, it's only up to you when where your boundaries are. Yeah.
And with those wise words, we're closing this webinar. Thank you so much, Maya.
Thank
We
you,
are
thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks you for inviting me, and thank you for the software, because for me it changed everything. So
Thank you, Maya. And also, we want to thank everyone who has connected with us today. And one last bit of information. If you have any doubts, for example, I know somebody asked, what's the difference between Moho Pro, Moho Debut? All that information you can find it in our website, mohoanimation.com. Also, this webinar has been recorded, so if you missed something or if you want to share the word between your colleagues to learn more about Moho, this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, so don't forget to subscribe to receive a notification once it's ready. And for latest information, repost and watching some other animators using Moho, remember to follow us in our social media as Moho Animation on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And to learn more about Maya and her projects and the Animwood projects, follow her and the studio as Maja Krajewska on Instagram and Animwood Studio on Instagram. And
yeah.
also, don't forget to visit their website, animwood.com.
Yeah, actually, you can subscribe our channel on Instagram, because we're adding there a ton of work in progress and how it was done videos. So you can just check how we are doing things, and maybe you can learn something or let us know how to do it better.
Thank you. Yes, we are a great community, so we're glad to learn from you and from the feedback from other animators. So, again, thank you so much, Maya,
Thank you.
and thank you so much, people. We hope to see you in our next event, so stay tuned. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.